Most gardeners follow the same routine every single year. As spring arrives, they start seeds, prepare the soil, plant their vegetables, and spend months caring for them until harvest time. When the season ends, everything starts over again the following year. New seeds, new planting, new work. For many people, gardening becomes a cycle of constant restarting. But what if your garden didn't have to begin from zero every season? What if there were vegetables that could be planted once and continue producing food for years afterward? Hidden among the thousands of plants grown around the world, there is a special group known as perennial vegetables. Unlike annual plants that live for only one season, perennial vegetables return year after year. Once established in the garden, many of them become stronger and more productive with time. Their roots grow deeper, their resilience increases, and the harvest often improves as the years go by. Instead of constantly replacing plants, the garden begins to develop stability. Over time, it starts behaving less like a temporary field and more like a living ecosystem. Many traditional farming cultures relied heavily on these types of plants. Before industrial agriculture encouraged massive seasonal planting cycles, farmers often designed gardens around plants that could remain productive for long periods. This reduced labor, stabilized soil life, and ensured reliable harvests. Today, many of these vegetables are surprisingly forgotten, even though they can make gardening easier and more productive. In this video, you will discover 15 vegetables that you can plant once and harvest for years. Some of them may already be familiar, while others might be completely new to you. But all of them share one powerful characteristic. Once established, they can keep producing food season after season. The first vegetable on this list is asparagus. Asparagus is one of the most famous perennial vegetables in the world, and for good reason. When planted correctly, an asparagus bed can remain productive for 15 to 20 years, sometimes even longer. Unlike most vegetables that produce within a few months, asparagus requires patience during its early stages. After planting asparagus crowns, gardeners typically wait 1 or 2 seasons before harvesting heavily. This waiting period allows the roots to grow strong and establish a deep underground system. Once that system is established, the plant begins sending up new shoots every spring. These tender shoots are the asparagus spears that many people enjoy eating. What makes asparagus truly remarkable is that each year, the plant becomes more productive. Mature asparagus beds can produce dozens of spears every season from a single planting because the plant's roots grow deep into the soil. Asparagus is also relatively drought-tolerant once established. For gardeners willing to invest a little patience in the beginning, asparagus can become one of the longest-lasting and most rewarding vegetables in the garden. The second perennial vegetable is rhubarb. Rhubarb is known for its thick red stalks and its strong, tangy flavor. While technically classified as a vegetable, it is often used in desserts, jams, and baked dishes. Rhubarb plants form large crowns underground, which allow them to return every spring with vigorous new growth. Once established, a rhubarb plant can continue producing harvestable stalks for 10 years or more. In many older gardens, it is not unusual to find rhubarb plants that have been growing in the same place for decades. One reason rhubarb thrives as a perennial is its ability to store energy in its roots during winter. When spring arrives, the plant quickly sends up new stalks using that stored energy. Gardeners usually begin harvesting rhubarb in the 2nd or 3rd year after planting. From that point forward, the plant can provide a steady supply of stalks every spring and early summer. Because rhubarb forms such a large root system, it also helps stabilize soil and reduce erosion in garden beds. The third vegetable is the Egyptian walking onion, sometimes called the tree onion. This unusual plant behaves very differently from common onions. Instead of producing seeds and flowers, Egyptian walking onions form small bulb clusters at the top of their stalks. As these bulb clusters grow heavier, the stalk eventually bends over and touches the ground. When the bulbs reach the soil, they can take root and grow into new plants. Over time, the onions appear to slowly move across the garden, which is why they are called walking onions. Once planted, these onions can continue reproducing themselves naturally year after year. They tolerate cold climates extremely well and often begin growing early in the spring. Gardeners can harvest both the green onion leaves and the small bulb because the plants continually reproduce themselves. A small patch of Egyptian walking onions can gradually expand into a long-term food source. The fourth plant on this list is sorrel. Sorrel is a leafy green vegetable with a bright, lemon-like flavor. It has been cultivated in Europe and Asia for centuries and was once a common ingredient in soups and sauces. Sorrel plants form compact clumps of leaves that return every year from the same root system. Once established, sorrel can continue producing fresh leaves for many seasons. The leaves are often harvested when young and tender, making them ideal for salads or light cooking. Sorrel grows quickly in spring and continues producing until the heat of summer slows its growth. Because it regrows after each harvest, a single sorrel plant can provide many harvests throughout the season. Its perennial nature makes it a reliable early-season green in many climates. The fifth vegetable is Jerusalem artichoke, also known as sunchoke. Despite its name, it is not related to artichokes and does not come from Jerusalem. Instead, it is a species of sunflower that produces edible tubers underground. These tubers grow in clusters beneath tall, sunflower-like plants. Once planted, Jerusalem artichokes often return every year from any tubers left in the soil. This makes them extremely persistent in the garden. In fact, some gardeners consider them almost too enthusiastic growers, but when managed properly, Jerusalem artichokes can provide large harvests with minimal effort. The tubers are usually harvested in autumn or winter and can be roasted, boiled, or sauteed. Because the plants grow tall and strong, they can also serve as natural windbreaks in the garden. The sixth perennial vegetable is lovage. Lovage is a taller black plant with a flavor similar to celery but more intense. It has been used in traditional European cooking for hundreds of years. Lovage plants develop large root systems that allow them to return every year. Once established, they can grow impressively tall, sometimes reaching over 6 feet in height. The leaves can be used as a flavoring herb, while the stems can be cooked in soups or broths. Lovage is particularly valued because a single plant can provide harvestable leaves throughout the growing season. Since it returns each year from the same root crown, gardeners only need to plant it once to enjoy many years of production. The seventh plant is Good King Henry. This lesser-known vegetable was once a common garden crop in medieval Europe. Today it is rarely grown, but it deserves far more attention. Good King Henry produces tender shoots in spring that can be cooked similarly to asparagus. Later in the season, it develops leafy greens that resemble spinach. Because it is a hardy perennial, the plant returns year after year from its underground roots. In traditional gardens, it was often valued for its ability to provide multiple types of edible harvests from the same plant. Its resilience and long lifespan make it a fascinating addition to perennial garden systems. The eighth perennial vegetable is sea kale. Sea kale grows naturally along coastal regions and has been cultivated in gardens for centuries. It forms thick roots and large leaves that return every year. Gardeners often harvest the young shoots in early spring, which can be prepared in a similar way to asparagus. Later in the season, the leaves can also be eaten as a leafy vegetable. Sea kale's deep roots allow it to survive harsh conditions, including poor soils and coastal winds. Once planted, it can remain productive for many years with minimal care. The ninth plant is perennial kale. While most types of kale are grown as annual crops, certain varieties behave more like short-lived perennial kale plants can continue producing leaves for several years without needing to be replanted. These plants grow as small shrubs that constantly produce new edible leaves. Gardeners simply harvest the outer leaves while allowing the plant to continue growing from the center. This continuous growth habit allows a single plant to provide repeated harvests throughout the year in mild climates. The 10th vegetable is horseradish. Horseradish is famous for its strong and spicy root, which is often grated to create sauces and condiments. Once planted, horseradish becomes a very persistent perennial. Even small pieces of root left in the soil can grow into new plants. The plant produces large leaves during the growing season, while developing thick roots underground. Harvesting typically takes place in autumn when the roots are most developed. Because horseradish regenerates isolate from root fragments, gardeners often find that it continues growing year after year without needing to be The 11th vegetable is the Chinese artichoke. This unusual plant produces small, knobby tubers that resemble tiny spirals. These tubers have a crisp texture and a mild, nutty flavor. Chinese artichokes grow underground like potatoes, but return each year from leftover tubers in the soil. The plant spreads slowly and can create a reliable patch that produces harvestable tubers every season. Although not widely known, they are prized in some cuisines for their unique appearance and texture. The 12th perennial vegetable is chives. Chives are among the easiest perennial herbs to grow in a garden. They form dense clumps of slender green leaves that regrow continuously after cutting. Once planted, chives return every spring from the same root system. The leaves can be harvested repeatedly throughout the growing season, making them one of the most convenient perennial crops. In addition to their culinary value, chives also produced attractive purple flowers that attract pollinators to the garden. The 13th plant is the daylily. While often grown as an ornamental flower, certain varieties of daylily produce edible buds and shoots. In some Asian cuisines, daylily buds are considered a delicacy. The plants form strong perennial root systems that allow them to return year after year with very little maintenance. Because they are highly adaptable, daylilies can grow in a wide range of soils and climates. The 14th vegetable is Turkish rocket. This perennial leafy plant produces tender greens in early spring, long before many annual vegetables begin growing. Turkish rocket forms a deep root system that allows it to survive cold winters and return vigorously each year. Its leaves have a slightly bitter flavor that works well in cooked dishes. The 15th and final plant on this list is wasabi. This unusual leafy green has a spicy flavor reminiscent of wasabi. Unlike typical arugula, which often grows as an annual, this variety can behave as a perennial in suitable climates. Once established, it produces fresh spicy leaves over extended periods. A garden built around perennial vegetables slowly changes the way gardening works. Instead of constantly preparing new beds and planting new seeds, the garden begins to develop long-term stability. Roots remain in the soil year after year, supporting microbial life and improving soil structure. Each season, the plants return, often stronger than before. Over time, this approach transforms the garden into something closer to a self-sustaining ecosystem. While annual vegetables will always have their place, adding perennial crops can reduce work while increasing reliability. Sometimes the most productive gardens are not the ones we constantly rebuild, but the ones we design to keep growing long into the future.